Previously on Elysia Rising.
What the pissing hell was that? We don't want rips in the veil!
But how can you really understand something unless you break it a little bit?
And from under the sink, I get these big gallon-sized glass brown bottles filled with photo-developing chemicals that I've infused with foresight, the mineral that Algernon uses to predict the future.
You notice that the burning sensation keeps on growing. You see all of these mental images of people in your minds silhouetted by a great fire that engulfs all of the silhouettes, one in turn, reaching towards you.
Well, that hasn't helped much with my stress.
Khavren.
Hello.
The door to your room is booted open, and 3 armed city watch burst into the room.
What?
Have you made an appointment?
The sergeant says, "We've only got a couple of questions to ask you," before the truncheon hits you in the head.
Welcome to Elysia, the jewel of the north. On our gilded streets, fortune and fame can be found by anyone.
Hi, I'm Julia, and I'm playing Magpie, an ace of our lurk.
Hi, I'm Nate, and I'm playing Khavren, a dragon-scent slide.
Hi, I'm Meg. I'm playing Frida, a wolfkin cutter.
Hi, I'm JC, and I'll be playing Algernon, an ace of our spider.
Hello, I'm Errol. I am playing Atta, a goblin whisperer.
And my name is DM Dan. I will be the games master on this adventure.
So come on in and marvel at our wonders. Make sure you see the beautiful views we have to offer, and don't mind the ghosts. They're friendly, really. Grab yourselves a seat and make yourselves welcome in the city of Elysia.
Welcome back, crew. How do?
Lovely.
Could be better.
Could be better.
Smash cut to Khavren getting punched in the face!
Well, yes. In fact, that is exactly what we smashed
Great.
cut to.
That was a joke, Dan!
It's more of a authoritative slap.
Oh boy.
Meant to demean and belittle. But Khavren, as you're kind of rocked to the side, you look up at the 3 city watch that have you cornered and cuffed in the corner of the Celestry kind of boudoir room that you've woken up in after a much needed night of tantric, debaucherous foot rubs to take your mind off of the job you've just run. The sergeant towers over you, like a relatively short but portly Lorivar, with a bit of a straggly goatee. But he peers down on you, like on the floor, and he lets out a sigh. "Let's try this again. Where were you in the early evening yesterday?" So, as an aside, in an interrogation, you may pay them off with 3 coin, or they beat you up and you tell them what they want to know.
Is that it?
The beating is level 2 harm, and what they want to know adds 3 heat. You can resist each of those consequences separately.
I don't have 3 so I guess I'm going to be resisting a beating.
Well, bear in mind you've got I suppose the stash has coin. Okay, so yes, in interrogation, so you realise that these watch aren't going to be leaving without something that they're happy to be leaving with, and you've known the guard long enough that the only languages they speak are gold to look the other way, or the answers that they want you to tell them. So yeah, and I guess in this moment, well, as the sergeant asks you, where were you early evening yesterday? What do you do?
I think Khavren's gonna just spit out a bit of blood that's obviously accumulated in his mouth from being smacked about a bit, and say, "I've told you, fine gentlemen, I've been here all evening and all night."
The sergeant takes in a deep breath and then sort of like lowers to one knee to get down to eye level with you. You know, they say that dragon scents are divine messengers from the gods, and to no one is an auspicious thing indeed. But do you want to know why I like dragon scent? You're so rare, it's really easy to follow leads on them. So, this can go one of two ways. Either you tell us what we want to... Either way, you tell us what we want to know. Perhaps we could come to a small arrangement. And he throws an empty coin pouch on the ground between you. Perhaps there is another dragon scent in Elysia that matches your description.
I think Khavren is then going to pay the coin.
Ooh.
Okay.
I think he's gonna... He knows how rare dragon scent are, and he also now knows how incredibly of a rare situation happened, and having that sort of heat on the crew would be pretty bad for us. So I think he is going to pay the coin, and he will try and find a way to pay it back to the crew.
Okay. Well, I will. But we'll need to do a flashback to find out how you came to have 3 coin in your possession. But I mean, just to throw them up in the air, perhaps you swung by Cadwallader Manor on the way to Celestry to help yourself to the piggy jar, or perhaps you've just been forced to hand out a loner.
A loner, that'd be good. Let's go with that.
In which case, as you slide, as you shift to the side with your cuffed wrists as best you can to remove the coin that you were lent last night to carry on your activities. Who was it who lent it to you? We might be easier to ask, was it a friend or a rival? Sorry, friend or potential enemy?
I'm probably gonna say it was an enemy. I'm gonna say it was my rival, as a sort of payback to keep myself more quiet and not make such an arse of myself.
Okay. If I may be so bold, I'm going
Please
to
do.
slightly change the narrative. The sergeant peers at you, the silence deafening in the wake of the question that he's just asked. You know, tell us what we want or get us to look elsewhere. When another voice, a quite booming, projecting voice, rings out from the doorway. I hope I'm not interrupting, gentlemen. And Khavren, through your slightly swollen eye, like your puffy cheek, you look up, and in the doorway is a yellow scaled dragon scent, wearing regalia of the children of Aya. And Khavren,
Gods.
Khavren, what is your where is your head at when you see Dorothea, your old kind of mentor?
I think Khavren is just gonna. He's gonna be looking down. He's gonna be looking away as much as he possibly can. He's feeling quite very, very embarrassed about this whole situation, and the last person he wants to see him in this situation is her.
Sure. In which case, the three watch, stand. The sergeant turns around and, I'm sorry, this is an ongoing investigation. If you could just, and Dorothea strides across the room, and with her her index finger and thumb, clamps the sergeant's mouth shut, like pinches his mouth closed. It would seem that I was interrupting something. But I think it's time you were on your way, gentlemen, she says. And like, as the sergeant, who's shocked that this dragon scent is manhandling him, like the two other watch go to step forward, and you see her like turn her other hand, palm up, and it begins glowing with white light. I would think twice about your next move. The watch, clearly a bit wary of the spellcaster in front of them, look to the sergeant. The sergeant pulls himself free, and like sandwiched between two dragon scent, just like straightens his jacket and tabard and looks over his shoulder and this isn't the last time we'll see each other, Khavren. And with a flick of the head, he orders the other two watch to leave. And you are left alone in the room with Dorothea, and at this point you are painfully aware that you are wearing nothing but your shirt and pants.
I don't think this is the first time that Dorothea has found Khavren in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is just going to be looking down like a bit like a scolded child. And just not looking at her. And just kind of says like, I don't need your help anymore.
Dorothea, like, looms over you. She's a big dragon scent, and she through her sort of like 50-60 years on elsewhere, she has learned how to use her kind of her physical presence to aid in her commanding presence, like her physical stature to aid in her commanding presence. And as like her eyes drill into you, like they always do, she will see about that, Khavren. and you, like, she looks around, she tuts, like an audible, almost dramatic tut. A shame. And she turns and leaves.
Is Khavren still tied up? Is he still handcuffed?
Can you imagine if he's just left in the room, like, help?
Actually, you know what? Yeah. Yeah, they scan.
Could you get me out before you go? It's like, I thought you didn't need my help.
Yes, in which case, no, I'm going to say, yeah, Dorothea, like, walks out the room. And you're like, oh god, and you have to, like, hop to get some assistance, to get unshackled.
In my pants.
In your pants.
In your pants, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But yeah, you don't seem, you didn't have to have paid the guard, but you do kind of get some feeling that Dorothea will somehow be able to use this as kind of leverage on you in the future. So with that in mind, where are you heading? What are you doing immediately after you're released?
I think once Khavren's been released, he is going to slowly and very remorsefully, very coyly make his way back to the manor.
Okay.
Actually, no, I think he's going to make his way back to the Spectre.
Okay. In which case, where do we find Atta in the morning?
Oh, in the morning.
Like after downtime is finished, fundamentally.
Okay. I think they likely did their heat reducing activities fairly late at night, or in as inconspicuous. Well, there's no day-night cycle, but within the least sort of traversed time of night. I think Atta's probably perched at the bar, somehow has some kind of mushroom coffee of some description. Yeah.
Is there nothing mushrooms can't do?
The wonder food, indeed. Just as an aside, I was having a little think about the whole day-night cycle, and there wouldn't be a day-night cycle. But I was also thinking about lamp lights and whatnot that would be in Elysia. Here's some impromptu world building, and it's dawned on me that places of more importance to the faith, so for example all of Abbotsgate and other places like that, like most of Spire Park and effectively the nicer parts, would most likely have troops of light casters, because that's a divine light, that divine magic that is allowed in Elysia. So there would be some parts of the city where the kind of white, yellowy, blue kind of light that the clerics are casting would almost override the purplish hue, and then that turns off, at dusk, if you will. But yeah, so there would be patrols in the morning around places like Abbotsgate and Spire Park, of clerics lighting up the place to make it seem like daytime. It's like Haveney, Duskrillen, Haveney maybe, Duskland probably not, Rookridge definitely not. Too dangerous to go into Old Town. Celestry, they turn on their party lights at night. The more you know. Sorry, continue, Errol.
No, that's cool. It's good texture. But yeah, Atta's looking bashfully into a cup of coffee. Mushroom coffee.
Mushroom brew. Okay. Sorry, in the Spectre or Cadwallader?
Or
somewhere else?
in the Spectre, if that is open that early for, day drinkers, morning drinkers.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Algernon. After your troublesome evening, where did we find you first thing in the morning?
So sometimes you find him passed out in the bathroom, but I think he'd had enough of the fumes for one night, so he probably did dry himself off and crawl back into the master bed.
Sure. Okay. In which case, you wake with a start, and as you peer out the window, you're met with an all too familiar kind of swirling purple miasma filtered through a blue field. And this involuntary part of your mind kind of thanks someone that everything isn't on fire. But yes, as you kind of ready yourself in the morning, are you staying put or are you heading to Spectre?
I think I'd head to the Spectre, and on my way downstairs I pass by this ostentatiously large portrait of my parents that's on the stairwell, with me as the fancy little boy on their knee.
Sure.
And I give it my customary little punch, or I pick up the paint, damage it a little bit more every day.
Sure.
And I head out onto the Spectre.
Okay. So yeah, as you head down, through the southern entrance, quote unquote, across the small canal bridge. Yeah, you make your way to the familiar the familiar street with an arch that contains the Spectre. Magpie. Are you rendezvousing at the Spectre as well?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Presumably waking up from home, making your excuses. Presumably waking up at home, making your excuses to be out for the day.
Yep.
Okay, cool. In which case, as the three of you, Atta, Algernon, Magpie, you make your way to the Spectre. What is it? The three of you. Is there anything in particular the three of you are doing when you arrive?
There's two other mushroom coffees, or three other mushroom coffees, just on the side, keeping warm.
Okay.
I go and sit down and take mine and sort of nod in thanks to Atta, and peruse this morning's treatise.
Sorry, so is Khavren not already there?
Khavren's not there.
Not there, fair enough.
Not there.
Okay.
So, in which case, Algernon, as you open the treatise, I assume you've kind of grabbed a copy of the treatise, you flicked the coin to the newspaper, a little newspaper girl who's like, buy the treatise, sir! And you've kind of had it under your arm as you've made your way to the Spectre, and it's only, once you get in. Are you sitting upstairs or are you going back down into the speakeasy?
I think first choice is always downstairs.
Downstairs, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
In which case, as the three of you go downstairs, you notice that Khavren's not here. Perhaps he's having a lie-in. As you kind of...
Perhaps he's still swinging from the chandelier.
Yes. As you place the treatise down on the table in front of you and sort of unfold it, you see the headline, Sanguivar Dissidents Arrested. It's the front page headline. And you see the mugshots of a number of Asavar. The black and white paper in front of you is very, very, you wouldn't really be able to, it'd be impossible to tell the difference between an Asavar and a Sanguivar. But yeah, there's 3 Asavar on the front page, their mugshots. Under the headline, Sangrevar dissidents arrested, and you notice that the rightmost is Amringer.
Oh, hello.
The journal the article goes on to talk about how through the dedication and perseverance of the Watch, these dissidents have tried to bring kind of civil unrest to the city of Elysia. They've been apprehended and they've been kind of jailed. It doesn't have to specify that they've been sent to Bell Tower, but they've been arrested, they've been convicted and charged, and they've been sentenced to jail. And the Watch are continuing their search for anyone else that threatens the sanctity of Elysia.
Well, our eyes may be red, but at least we did not see the world in black and white. The other two mugshots, are they people who I recognise? Are they maybe his daughters? I know he had two daughters. So
interestingly, his two daughters aren't in the mugshots. The other two, I mean, you can't. Perhaps once upon a time in the past 2 years, you might have wandered past them in the street, but they are kind of no one of note. One of them, they both seem to have been rounded up from the Brookridge slums. Unrelated.
Cool.
But yeah.
Well, I was led to believe Amringer was a inoffensive and dull man, but apparently he's been up to something that's caught the guard's attention. That's piqued my curiosity.
Eric is sort of like looking over from the bar, and you notice he also has a copy of the treatise. And the bit that I find funny is how it's only the Asavar dissidents that they've found.
You find it funny? Oh, I see. This is more of your graveyard humour.
Yes. Let me rephrase it. I just find it odd that the only ones that they managed to find and charge are the Asavar. And he sort of like shakes his head, kind of tuts and goes back to what he was doing. Magpie, Atta, what do you make of this headline?
Fairly concerned. Magpie obviously is a bit worried about our very own Eric and Algernon being rounded up, and also has a friend of her own who is among the Sangrevar, as they're labelled.
So I should quickly interject and say, off the back of your excursions, your investigations, that you did very, very well with. Overhearing Musto wittering to himself. Yeah, you've picked up quite a number of interesting tidbits from around the city. So this treatise newspaper article seems to kind of correlate with the idea you have that the City Watch appear to be rounding up Sangrevar. And your minds all immediately go to yesterday when the City Watch were accosting Eric outside this very establishment. You also know, and I'm assuming Magpie will be sharing all of her discoveries. Yeah,
of course.
So you also know that the chain bearers, the old kind of merchant guilds of yesteryear, they appear to be sending group parties outside the Vale in order to bring things. They're just sending people out into the Vale, like search parties. You remember Musto kind of cackling to himself that none of them made it back. So effectively, they're just sending people out to die. But the chain bearers seem to be doing that. You remember him whinging, "Oh, I got stopped 3 times in the street by them bloody children of Aya, handing out their bloody pamphlets." And it seems like the children are really pushing on, sort of like spreading their word and doctrine through the city. It's very, very obvious from the outside, but the Musto you overheard him lay out his grand plan to expand into Old Town. It's going well, yeah, it's going well. And perhaps in your nightly activities at that kind of ball, that kind of gala, that party you had to go to, you decided to go to last night, you've also overheard that, have you heard there are all these ghosts above the shield of Elysia? The shield bearers, they're saying it was someone else. Apparently they're just doing all they can to find out who's causing all the ghosts. Yeah, they're going after him. So it seems like the shield is investigating the attackers. Investigating the ghosts, I should say.
Right.
Does the article say anything about where these, like, what districts these folks were accosted? Was it like, are they pinpointing specific districts?
The leftmost and the middle Asavar are listed as Rookridge residents. Amringer, it has his address in Dustry Hill. But yeah, and then it says how basically their properties, like their homes, have been kind of cordoned off pending investigation from the Watch as they try to uncover any other dissidents to Marshal Algarve's rule and the protection of Elysia as a whole.
One last question. Does it sort of... Is this like generally stuff that's been happening since before Torvayan? I almost got it. Tavarian was, what?
So the display that you saw yesterday outside the Spectre, that's the first time you've seen like the guard like that. There's amongst some of the population, there might be a bit of there's feelings and emotions towards the Sanguivar community tends to be a bit kind of more polarized one way or the other, but it's usually just kind of been that, just a difference in opinion. So seeing Eric, like the fact that the guard were coming along and they just wanted Eric to come with them, and then they got spooked when someone started standing up to them, and there was a crowd that started to get a bit more kind of agitated and irate, and they just had a bit of a leave it mentality. Like something is clearly happening, and it involves seemingly what you've seen from Eric, what you've seen from these three, from this newspaper. Yeah, something's happening with the Sanguivar community.
Algie, do you have a contact at the paper?
Well, I met a journalist on Remembrance Day. His name was Jamore.
Good old Jamore, yep. Yes, Jamore was left on a relatively neutral standing with you because you said some nice things and then you critiqued the crossword.
Yes,
and
I'm going to quickly check this morning's issue to see if they've.
That's another repeat.
I did this one last year.
So yes, and that was it. The journalistic capabilities of the treaties.
Yes, I may have been a tad frustrated in my own failures to speak to Tavarian and taking it out on the poor journalist. But perhaps I could go and have a word with him.
I just wonder whether they were there when they were arrested or whether they were fed this information.
Well, the article reads with their typical bias towards the authorities.
As you ponder this, Magpie, what is there anything you're doing this morning, or like any conversations you're wanting to have?
Yeah, I guess she would sort of approach Algernon and sort of say, Algernon, can I speak to you about something?
Of course.
It's just that I've been thinking a lot about the city and about Tavarian since, and it was just so strange that I should bump into her just before she died, and you yourself said that you wish you had spoken to her, and I just can't help but wish you'd been there, because you pick up on so much, don't you? And I feel as if I really didn't make as good use of the situation as I could have done. It would have just been so useful to have had your eyes on her in that moment.
Quite. I was hoping to catch her after the speech. I was very moved by her words on sacrifice. But I believe her running into you, though it may have been a coincidence, is something that I am very keen to explore and follow up on in my connection to foresight. Perhaps there's something in your meeting that we could use to convene with her again. What do you think, Atta? You seem to know your way around.
What do you mean, Algernon? The ghost? Well, I was thinking maybe I just talk through what happened and what I observed, but what do you mean?
Well, Atta, we've brought one ghost through into the Vale. Is there a way of being a bit more selective?
You want me to try again? I mean, sometimes it feels like I can kind of figure out what they're trying to do, but it's more like picking up a call and you don't quite know who the caller is. It just happens. But I guess we could try and figure it out. Be more precise.
Yes, perhaps there we could find a way to identify the callers before they reach us. Tavarian was passed a message by someone about the Vale, so she obviously knows more about the future implications.
Just as an aside, as Algernon asks you this and your mind starts racing about the possibilities of how you might make this happen, given that she was only killed less than 2 days ago, the chances are her body will have already been transported to the Osiris Mausoleum in Dustry Hill, but she most likely wouldn't have already been interred. there is, like you've heard whispers, that the recently deceased are sometimes used to promote growth for the city's mushrooms. So you've got this like big kind of, I can assume Atta's the sort of person to have this kind of big conspiracy theory that Osiris Mausoleum isn't a kind of graveyard crypt type place, but in fact is the city's largest mushroom farm.
Sorry.
And it's fertilized with...
We're consuming people mushrooms.
That's the theory.
Right. Okay.
So...
If you're quick...
I mean... I've never tried to pinpoint, and maybe if we had something from her body or were with her body, maybe there's something we could do. Maybe we need to go to the mausoleum and maybe we get some mushroom farmer outfits to infiltrate.
As an aside, between Magpie and Algernon, are either of you subscribed to this theory that the mausoleum, the people, the recently deceased, are ground up into fertilizer to help grow mushrooms?
I like to hope not.
Okay, that's a good enough answer. Algernon?
I think it makes sense to Algernon's worldview as everything being connected and like coincidences bumping into each other, and a person dying and ending up on someone else's plate. Like, he doesn't like the idea, but
Well, I mean, tell you what, Elysia is the ultimate closed system. So, and mushrooms are all about recycling energy and matter, aren't they? So,
hang on a minute. Mushrooms have a speaking network as well. I wonder how close it is to how the veil speaks to each other. Atta sort of starts to go, like, look deeply into the mushroom grounds of the coffee cup that she's just drained.
It was the mushrooms all along.
Think about, like, the way that mushrooms talk to each other and the way that all the veil ghosts seem to be in, like, sync and just, like, stares.
Well, yeah. And what do you suppose? What do you think of kind of Algernon's request of somehow, potentially kind of drawing Tavarien's spirit specifically? Yeah, seems like a goal.
What do we think has happened to Tavarien's spirit? Because you said that when people die, a ghost eventually comes out, which then gets, I don't know, proton packed.
Yeah. Which means that, like, so the difficulty with this request would be that it's already been about 2 days-ish. I would argue that none of you would really know how. Well, there is no definitive duration of time that it takes for a spirit to leave a body, Elysia, because there's been relatively few deaths since you've been here. Like, it's only really, like, obviously there was lots of death at the beginning, but then the bubble pushed all the ghosts out. But like old age deaths are relatively far and few between. But it will happen soon. Like, she will release her spirit, at which point it will be caught and destroyed before it can kind of escape and wreak havoc. So you kind of need to be quick. And also, if this horrendous theory that people have turned into mushroom fertilizer is true, then, like, you're also racing against that clock if you're planning on using her body, for example, as like a focus for any kind of ritual or spell you might want to cast.
Right.
You'll have to get to her before she's turned into pate.
So basically, we're going today. We're doing this today.
Well, but it's going to take some time to set this up. Like, you're going to need, like, you don't know what you do. Like, Atta, you're not, like, you have an idea of what you do, but you haven't got, like, the materials or the components or the spells. You haven't got the uniform. Like, you'd have to do some. Probably have to do a downtime's worth of acquiring assets in order to do this job. But yeah, time is slightly against you on that front. So it could be a medium-term goal.
I guess the other option is we go to where she died, and there might be a connection where she died if we can get in there, because we know where that is. But I don't know which would be better.
Algernon, would your foresight be more effective if you were somewhere close to where someone had died recently? Does it only tell the future, or does it give information about
the past? It's possible. It's arcane substance in nature.
Can you get hold of some time?
I'm sure I can have a word with my supplier.
In which case, as you kind of think that as you mull over the details, and you know that this is going to require some sort of planning, it's going to require most likely some purchasable items or acquired assets. You hear the bookshelf swing open, and there's an uneven footstep that descends down the stairs. And you all look up to see a somewhat dishevelled Khavren.
That's one way to enjoy yourself.
Better late than never, old boy.
I think Khavren inside is feeling a little bit just like, oh god, they're here. But then he sees the mushroom coffee sitting on the table, and he wanders over and sits with them,
As
being sort of quite silent.
As an aside, Nate, you've got a whisper.
Oh, okay. I think he's gonna grab his coffee and he's gonna go, would you all do me so kindly as accompanying me upstairs, please? He's gonna be speaking quite... He has a relatively posh accent anyway, but he's gonna be speaking very much more studious and a little bit out of character than usual.
Everything all right, Khavren?
If you don't mind. And sort of gestures everyone to go upstairs.
Do I trust that we're not walking into a trap or something?
I don't know, Julia. Do you?
What could I roll? I don't know. Would survey be anything for that? I don't know.
Things like this, you can decide whether you trust or not.
Khavren's gonna see your sort of concerned look, and give you sort of like just like a hard stare, like it's serious.
All right, and I get up to follow.
Everyone else going? Sure.
I put my hand on Khavren's shoulder and says, "Your fly's undone." And it just...
Khavren does himself up.
In which case, the four of you kind of head upstairs, and Khavren, you lead everyone out of the Spectre, like past Juicy, and she's kind of giving you a confused look as the four of you, like you've just wandered in and then almost immediately wandered out with the rest of them.
Throughout this whole, Khavren's just staring sort of down. Or staring straight forward. He's not looking at the others.
Sure. And yeah, for the rest of you, this does seem very kind of odd and out of place. But Khavren leads you outside onto the cobblestone street. He leads you down back under the familiar arch onto the main road. And as you kind of emerge out and look right, in the middle of the street is a large yellow scaled dragon scent, surrounded by clergy of the Children of Ire, wearing kind of clerical armors, chainmail. One of them holds a tome. The others have kind of ornamental maces hanging from their belts. And the dragon scent woman smiles, and you recognize it as the smile of a blackmailer, of a manipulator, of someone who's made someone else do something because they had no choice. "Thank you, Khavren," says Dorothea. And she looks and kind of intently stares at all of you in turn. "I understand that you, much like Khavren, have strayed from the light. But in this moment, that will work to my benefit. I have a job proposition for you, and I feel you are in no real position to refuse." And with that, we'll call it there.
Ooh. You're right there, Earl.
What? What does she want? Does she want to figure out who's putting people through the bubble again? I forgot. Which faction?
The chain bearers, the sort of merchant people.
Right. I don't know why. Maybe I've got a... Maybe she wants to know about that. I don't know.
Elsewhere in Elysia, the sound of ragged panting is accompanied by the frenetic pounding of foot on cobblestone. The sound of panic intermingles with the sound of a valuable item slung over a shoulder in a sack. An unseen pothole in the ground sends the Lorival woman sprawling to the ground in a painful thud. The cube in the bag spilling out onto the street. And as the woman looks up, her face illuminated by its greenish glow. She tries to get up and winces as she realizes her ankle is twisted and sprained. Nevertheless, she stoops down to pick up the cube, but stops. And she realizes she's lost too much ground. And as she looks up to the exterior of the veil, she is swarmed by vengeful spirits which lift her up, her screams blocked out from those inside the veil. Congratulations, everyone, on completing episode 4.
Cameron's face didn't get 2.
No, it avoided level 2 harm. So
No,
there's that.
that's
You're all good. You've still got 2 working eyes. It's fine. You've got another job. They're keeping you busy.
What is level 2 harm? Like, how does harm work?
So you have like 2 level 1 slots, 2 level 2 slots, 1 level 3 slot, and then death. So
if you get 2 level 2s, then you minus a dice from everything you do.
It's if you have if either are filled in, you get minus dice.
Okay. Yeah.
And if they're both filled up, then and you get a third level 2, then it becomes level 3, which is like you can't do anything on your own.
Right. Okay. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
Big oof. Anyway, but it's fine. It didn't happen. And absolutely nothing untoward or unfortunate is going to happen to you going forward. Right?
It's all fine.
Sure.
It feels like we're still in the very early stage of the game before we realise just how messed up we are going to have to get. Like, we haven't had harm yet, we haven't had trauma yet.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to stay
but we're
that
just
way.
on the cusp of doing it.
No,
Yes.
no, we're fine. We're okay.
Okay. Well, thank you lot for playing. Thank you all for watching and or listening. If you liked it, like this video, make sure to hit the like button and comment down below on comment down below on what you would want someone to fetch from Beyond the Veil if you were a chain bearer. And if you want to find out if you were correct in your assumptions and guesses, then make sure to catch the next episode by subscribing to the Explorers of Voiceover channel and hitting the bell icon for notifications of new uploads, which happen very regularly. We wouldn't want you to miss any of them. So, with all that said, thank you once again for playing. Thank you all again once again for watching and or listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.